from the available funding through MoDOT. So I guess that's a long way around to answer your question. I apologize for that. But to answer your question directly, yes, we will start immediately once the council approves. If you decide to approve this amount, we'll start immediately to get that going. I kind of think that based on what I've seen past projects, by late fall, maybe we could start to see some of the construction, which takes us into a situation where that we go for this type of construction, which is concrete and steel work, you go into the winter. And again, when you go into the winter, a lot of months, that comes to a halt. So realistically, to see the completion of it, I see it as being maybe next spring, March or April timeframe.
So at this point, what you need is a commitment on behalf of the city council to meet that set grant?
That's correct.
And we could actually accrue that. You don't have to pay that up front, right?
No. The way this works is once the work starts, then we will, the contractor will submit to the engineers a drawdown of funds, and then the engineers will take and approve that and submit it to us. And I know that Ms. Reisner and I have been working back through previous grant quite close with the way the situation works. But then from there, we will authorize the payment, and then it goes to MoDOT, and MoDOT gives us our matching funds back. So it's done on a piecemeal type basis as the project goes along.
I'm pretty ignorant about this stuff, so this may be a stupid question, but
no such thing.
Would these things be used, would they be rented to individuals?
Yes.
So they'd be rented out to John Doe and at a certain fee? That's
correct. Yeah, each of those buildings out there that belong to the city generates a revenue stream for us through rental, and that helps to offset our expenses as we go along.
And then the bigger hangar with the helicopters.
Yes, I've been working some with the folks that fly the emergency helicopter in and out, and they need a place for their aircraft. Right now, what they have to do is during bad weather, they have to pick up and go about 18 miles to the west to a community that has a large enough building that they can take and put it in there and get it in and out of the weather. So that's what they're doing now, and they've talked to me several times about if there's any possible way for the city or for us to look at a hangar for them. And so they have been on our hangar list now for some time. And with this project and with the ability to take and construct that one larger hangar, then we can accommodate that. Plus, I mean, it's a good revenue stream because they will be glad to rent it. In fact, they would rent one for us right now if we had one large enough to accommodate them.
So I'm sort of like Mr. Gore. I really don't know that much about the airport board, but you all have your own budget, right? You have a separate budget from the city?
No, we used to. I have a rough draft that I've asked them to submit that will be part of our budget process again.
Okay, it's in with ours?
Well,
It will be.
It is.
It will
Oh, okay, it's going
It's
to.
all changing this year.
Okay. I mean, my question is kind of like, why would we
Yeah.
give the airport the money and then you all get the revenue from?
Well, we do, but that revenue is pumped back into the airports. And going back some, historically, we had a budget. We, the airport, had a budget from the city, and we used that for our month-to-month operations. The money that we collect from fuel sales, from rent, and from various avenues that we do collect income went into our capital gains funding. So we would hold that for projects like this until we could get enough accumulated through the state, through MoDOT Aviation. Then we would have the money set aside from that revenue stream to take and match this, and we wouldn't have to ask for this money.
In other words, you've got money sitting in the bank waiting on that.
Not necessarily, because our budget was cut out for general operations back about 5 years ago. And since then, we've had to take and operate our monthly operations from the revenue stream that we have.
How much more in revenue is this going to generate for you?
These 4 buildings, they would probably about another $500 to $600 a month.
Bigger hangar is about 300, and the other one's about 300. It's so
Right.
about 600.
The opportunity for us here is with an investment of about approximately $60,000, we can come up with a $600,000 project.
I don't know if it'll clear things up or confuse it, but their MoDOT aviation grant is the same thing that we're drawing from on the hiking and biking trail. It's just different arms, to where they have to look at the ports, they have to look at the airports, they have to look at highways, they have to look at hiking and biking trails, they have to look at the fast transit and all that type of stuff. All of it, I mean, MoDOT puts money in all those categories. And we get our annual one through their surface transportation urban funds that accumulates. We get $43,000 a year, and that builds up. But if we don't spend it after a certain period of time, we start losing it too. And that's where they are
The
with
value
this.
to the city is basically just the upgrade of the airport.
That's correct.
That is correct.
And, you know, the council has been very supportive in the past on projects out there, and we probably have one of the premier airports in this area. And we receive that from corporate pilots that come through, that information, that feedback from these folks that come through there and use that basically bring more to our community. So it is a valuable asset to the community, as I think we all know.
Who's on the airport board?
I'm on the airport board, Sam Jewell is on the airport board, David Wilkins, Hampton Beck, George Penosis, and
James Finch.
James Finch. There's 7 of us on that board. James Finch was the last.
Used to teach out at the high school. Many long
And Don
years.
Collins.
That's right, Don Collins. I knew I forgot that.
I was thinking.
Do all these people fly?
Yes.
Probably.
We will, we can accrue it.
But the change in this, though, is going to be that instead of being a non-budgeted department from the city, we're bringing them back in and gonna start having a budget and basically become part of the city again. And there'll be a budget process that will be approved by the city council and the whole works.
We need a motion for this.
So this won't come out until next year's fiscal year, then, right? It won't come out this fiscal year, it'll be next year.
That'll be next fiscal year.
You'll be next year.
Yeah, next fiscal year, but
And it will all come out at one time. Again, it'll be piecemealed as the project goes forward. So,
I don't know why he did that, but Mayor Crackman just said, you all don't need to be part of the budget process, you just operate with what you got.
Well, actually, that was when I
That
was
was before.
finance chairman, and we were looking for ways to cut the budget. And it was decided that because of the fuel income, we felt like the airport could fund itself. And it's done that for 5 years. They used to get 50,000.
and that is correct. And the only problem with that is when we come up with these capital improvement projects, we don't have the money to do that anymore, because we don't have that money that we've been able to save back from, you know, our rents and fuel fees.
Basically, though, this is an investment in the future that will enhance your revenue stream.
That's correct.
You're talking about roughly $6,000 a year additional revenue coming in.
With an investment of 10%, you'll get 90% from MoDOT.
Which as their investment, as their revenue stream increases, then they are less dependent upon city revenue as well for their budget.
Let me ask, on the approval of the money, can it wait until the next meeting? Or does it have to be, is it timely that it needs to be tonight?
Time
It is
sensitive.
timely because of we need to get this under grant in order to make sure that we don't lose this 2012 money.
Well, the reason I asked is an unbudgeted item, anything over 5,000 normally has to go to the next meeting to be approved. But if there are extenuating circumstances such as it has to be passed tonight, council can do it.
When do it have to be back, Terry?
Well, the engineering project
Well,
has
that's,
to
you know, they'll have to do engineering on it, that's.
how much would the engineering aspect of it alone cost?
Just the engineering portion of it is going to be 15%
Of the total project?
of the total project.
So it's too much as well.
Well,
If it is with that, I mean, we can work with that.
no, I mean,
I just-
the reason I ask is that if those are the circumstances and it has to be committed tonight to council because of the circumstances, it is permissible for the council to approve it.
It really does, because right now, even if we approve it tonight, and I will not turn the engineers on to start the work until it's approved. So they're in a holding pattern, but we are in kind of a real tight position for time because of getting it in before the August deadline.
Now, that's the reason I was asking, because when you said that it had to get the August deadline and the engineers haven't started, it's getting pretty tight.
It is.
If we can do it tonight, I'll make a motion.
Otherwise,
Oh,
it'll
second.
2 weeks.
Yeah, which I should have been here 2 weeks ago.
First and second.
We got a motion over here in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
One the same. Motion carries.
Okay, well, thank you, and we do appreciate it, and I would invite you to come out, and anytime that you have time, come out, and we will gladly show you around, kind of let you know what goes on out there, and show you the facility in depth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it'll be brief. In last month's minutes, there was a comment about mapping for the city, and it had said that to contact Marty Johnson, but it didn't stipulate who was supposed to contact him. So I called him today and talked to him, or called him yesterday, and then Randy and I have talked, and at this particular point, it may or may not work for us to use what the utilities already have mapped, but we're gonna have a meeting in June to talk about it, and it may just, mean that a couple of the departments will need to have their own system for mapping. So it's,
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
well, everything is going to, using like the.
911 thing?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, like utilities, what theirs is doing is it maps, say, the house by the meter. If 911 emergency, well, they could use that because it would still get them to the house. But what the street department needs is like the stormwater, the stop signs, all those different things. So it is something that we will need to do, but it will just be back with the council at a later date with more information.
when you're saying mapping it, who will it, what departments do you have?
Well, 911 will need it, the street department will need it, police and fire.
But the 911 for the mapping for 911 is so that it interfaces with a computer-aided dispatch. And it gives you the address, it gives you a cross street, it can give you a nearest hydrant, it can give you, if it's a commercial building and they have hazardous materials in there, the address of the location. So that may be somewhat different than what others are needing the mapping for.
Right. But we were thinking that one, maybe the utility system could work for everybody, but it doesn't look like it will.
So how many are you looking at?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see, but a license on it's only $400. So,
I know when we first got into the GPS mapping and whatever that Matt Skelton was doing, he went through, I think he's located every light pole and everything else in the city of Kennett, has he not, from over time?
He had a lot of it if you didn't lose it.
Yeah,
You got it.
He's got it.
but I know they put him under contract when they first started, after the ice storm, and they were working on locating all these new poles and stuff like that.
It's actually an ongoing system. Once you get the initial in there, someone builds a new house, they have to go out, get the new GPS locations, or build a new subdivision, then you gotta start. So it's an ongoing project. It's not like it happens once.
I had a little conversation with Diane on this, and it sounds to me like that one size doesn't fit all. We've got several different departments that have unique needs and requirements. And maybe the approach might be to go to this firm that does this and see where we can get a package deal. You know, if we need 3 systems, we need 4 systems, try to work out a package deal, because you start trying to develop one system that's gonna fulfill all the needs, it's gonna be almost prohibitive.
He's talking about systems, we're talking about a license for one computer. Okay, you put it on a laptop, you can't use it, no other PC or laptop can use it. It's licensed to that one, and they can follow it and they can check it. You know, we put it on that computer back there, and Diane tries to use it in her office, the company knows it. You know, so you're licensing one computer with this $400 license. And that's one reason it's gonna, you know, would make it difficult for everybody to come to one location and enter all their stuff and look everything up that they need to look up.
So what you'd be saying that for 400, we get one for David, and we get another 400, we get one for you, another one get.
Well, and Roger, it's too long since we went to Cape to go through that class, you know, so I'm not the one to necessarily be asking this. But I think there's a way that if we had one at the street department that I could access, I can't change it, but I could access City Like Gaston's waters to see if there's a sewer here. I know there's a way we can access, or property maintenance, or whoever could access the assessor's office and the courthouse to see who owns a piece of property and that type of stuff. And I know that's available because I've watched it being done. But for everybody to be able to sit at a computer anytime they wanted, if it's sitting in the 911 office and I need to come in there and find out when we changed out a stop sign last, or update that we changed out a new faceplate on it, you know, it's just not gonna work.
Well, one for each department would be sufficient.
More than likely, I mean, I'm not the computer person to be asking, maybe those guys back there in the corner could help you, but, you know, but
I mean, that's what it
we've
sounds
got
like.
different
Maybe
uses
one
for it,
department would be good.
you know. But, you know, we need to look into this more, I mean, you know.
The county looked into mapping the city a few years back, and they looked at that time, it'd be around $30,000 to map the city with house points. That's one layer for 911. They give that information to the city, said we can't do it at this time. And what they're talking about, these layers, you've got layers of information, like the police department need one layer, like your house points. John would need another layer of information, like your fire plugs and your cross street information, but that's been several years back. And then they were talking about 30,000. And the biggest thing now is gonna be your cell phones. We don't have that capability now with cell phones, but with this new system, we can pinpoint where you're calling from on cell phones, and that will be able to map that on this mapping system. Now, the exact cost now, I don't know what it would be. That's been 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Whereas right now at the sheriff's office, we take all the cell phone calls. If they call 911, anybody in the county that calls 911, it comes to us. But in the city of Kennett, we can't find you because it's never been mapped. If anywhere outside the city limits of Kennett, if you're calling on a cell phone, I can find you. But with the new 911 system and them upgrading, if you're standing in the middle of Indian Park, you call 911 on your cell phone, you don't know where you are, or for whatever reason, they will be able to find where you're at. It's a very important tool when it comes to 911.
I think countywide, Kennett's the only city that's not been mapped. All the counties been mapped.
At the time we got our 911, mapping wasn't really a thing. It was to get the central point with a 3-digit number, and that was one of the first generations of 911. Since then, all this new technology of GPS and mapping and location and pinging cell phones, it's really almost like having a car without a spare tire. You're riding around hoping you don't have a flat.
So the original 911 operated off your landline telephone.
That's right. You're correct.
And that's how it told you where to go. But you know,
Now you're at 90% coverage of cell phones, and the word we've got here recently, within 4 to 5 years, there'll be no such thing as landlines anymore. that's being phased out.
That's one of the reasons we had problems getting fiber optic changed down here for Floyd Street, because it's not a high priority for them anymore.
Any other discussion? I think this is something that's going to have a lot of research and homework done on it. That's a topic we'll have in future meetings. Diane, you want to roll, you want to continue?
Okay, in your packet, you also have the bill for Myrna, which is $217,734 this year. But the wonderful news is that we have been accruing in the budget to cover the Myrna cost. We have $255,000 that has been accrued for it. So we do have the money to pay it. We don't have to take a big gulp and try to figure out where we're gonna get it. It's a large bill, but it's good this year. It was about 260 something, or,
It's actually went down?
yeah, because we were at the 80%, Jeff Arp said that it saved the city about 20,000, but it actually saved 24,802. So it's very important that everybody be on board so we can get our score up to 100%.
Motion.
Any motion and second? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I guess, I assume you will continue to accrue for next year's indebtedness.
Sure is a nice little resource for raises and things,
Yes,
isn't it?
very good.
Next topic we have, approval of capital
Savings
projects.
is what I'm getting.
No, for the extra.
Hopefully that's good.
In your
Might as well.
package, you have city abstract for April.
Motion.
That's what she's looking for.
Yeah,
Second.
you had your head turned.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Okay.
Next one. The addendum.
Oh, yeah. Now, the next item is, it says, request the City Light and Water to approve, it's an addendum to a contract that the city entered into with S.H. Smith and Company some time ago, actually 2 years ago, about doing engineering on the lagoon in that area. And this addendum is for design work and engineering for sludge removal from the lagoon, which is something, sludge removal will have to happen. I know we're involved in litigation over the lagoon and over discharge, but the sludge removal is going to happen no matter what. So this contract, it's with S.H. Smith, or it's an addendum to the contract to provide for that engineering, and the total is $52,500, and all that's paid to City Light, Gas, and Water. It's just up to the council to approve the contract, and I would recommend that the contract be approved.
Motion.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of approving the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next up, anybody got anything else they need to bring up? Mayor?
I do, just briefly, I handed out a sheet, I had asked everybody to have in a rough draft on their budget for me to start and work on. I've got one from the airport board, I got one from the Diane for the administrative side, and I have one from the street department. The rough draft, and try to match it up with whatever. Then I also handed out a sheet that indicates when your particular committee might want to try to meet and put the details of your budget section. I've handed it out I happened to be at the airport the other day, and Mr. Dunstan there, we had a discussion. I showed him what I was doing. He said, well, here, I just put mine down right now. So he got, his date is already in there. You see that? Good. Maybe I'll hash around with your department, whatever, but, mainly I'm trying to get it done by the end of next week.
We can compliment the departments on the continuing efforts to stay under budget. Through April, the first 10 months of this year, total wise was $137,737 under budget. We went a little bit over in April, which is fine, coming into the end of the year and closing the gap between the budget and the actual. Continue your efforts for the next 2 months, and I think we're going to start next year off standing very well, and Roger's committee is working very hard to start pulling the budget together for next year. So thank you for your efforts. Do you have anyone in the audience who'd like to list that?
On a lighter note, I wanted to let everyone know that tomorrow at 5:30 on First Presbyterian Church lawn, we will be having a blessing of the animals. It will include 3 of our local ministers from 3 local churches, First Methodist, First Christian, and First Presbyterian will be doing this. And we are asking everyone to bring their pets on a leash or in a carrier, and, or you don't have to. You can be there as a representative, as a cat owner. My cats appreciate that greatly. But we're also doing it not only for the blessing, but to bring awareness to the Kennett Humane Department of their ongoing needs, of what they need. We'll be having a list that people can take home with them that just show that newspapers, old cereal bowls, plastic cereal bowls, mouthwash. They use that to clean the floor so that it's antiseptic and the pets can lick their paws and it doesn't hurt them. And there is a great article, thank you, Steve, in the paper today that talks about that. The other handouts that we will be having for them are 2 articles on the importance of spaying and neutering. There's a lack of education in our town, with many people in our town, of why it's important and why they should do this. So we want to just, it'll take a while, but if we can make this an annual event, which we would like to, we hope to be able to educate people as they go. And we're asking people when they come to bring one of the items on the list, when they come to the blessing tomorrow, to bring one of the items on the list. And Officer Pettit will be there with the posters of the before and after success stories. And Mr. Wheeler's agreed to bring Ace, the mascot, there for people. And our ministers are, like I said, giving of their time to do this. And this is the 2nd time that we've had a blessing of the animals. So we're looking forward to it. It's tomorrow at 5:30. At the First Presbyterian Church, the front lawn. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
All right, greetings. I'd like to first start out by saying thank you for bringing a blade down and doing a little bit of work there on St. Francis. I was hoping to be here at the last one, and AUC had their family night, so we were out there at family night. But it was a great start. A lot of us have gotten together and been talking about it. It's like, could we go just a little bit further? Could we bring in a couple loads of, I call it eggshell chat, I don't know what the actual terminology, but it's the real fine chat that packs in really well. Put into a lot of the potholes down there, smooth out that shoulder work down through there, a lot of it, because in some areas it's more gravel, some are more asphalt. Fill them in, and if the city has a roller, come in and help smash it down, otherwise our car's going over it, we'll smash it down. That's what I do on my lot. Every couple of years I bring in that chat, and that's how it gets packed. I understand that the street committee has been postponed, the meeting for next week's been postponed, so has there been a date set for it yet?
We'll get it rescheduled, and we have a contact number with you as well. Did we get that, the email?
I don't, I,
Was Ms. Combs, did she?
yeah, that's how I found out, yeah, through
Okay,
Ms.
yeah,
Combs.
so we're gonna
Yeah.
continue to try to get.
Okay,
hold
that
of
works
it.
great.
Okay.
And then, one of the